Howdy. I was just sitting in here and I thought I might go ahead and check my horoscope. See what the future holds for me. I don't know where they put these in the newspaper, but I'm sure it's in here somewhere. Well, oh, here we go. What's it say for a Libra? Well, today is a 7. The action planet Mars went direct yesterday, whatever that means. After these almost 3 months of soul searching, march boldly forward for what you are truly passionate about. Well, it's nice that somebody knows my future, since I'm not always sure what my future is. I don't think many people really know what their future is because it's very difficult to predict the future. It's in this lesson that we're going to look at the technologists and the future and how that's determined in technology. Now, in 1965, Gordon Moore, who was a co-founder of Intel, came up with the concept that's now been called Moore's Law. And what he suggested was that the number of transistors on an integrated circuit would double every 2 years. Now, that's 1965. You know, transistors and on these circuits, that's what makes a difference with our computers and phones, these cell phones that we carry around. Back in '65, he saw technology changing that rapidly. This is really, amazing that this guy had that kind of foresight into what was going on in his little world at Intel. Now, technologists are a very unique kind of person. A technologist is not the same thing as a technician. A technician is somebody who understands an application. A technician is somebody who can show you how to use a computer, maybe fix a computer. But a technologist is somebody who innovates and has ideas for the future. I think one of the greatest technologists began his work in a garage. Recently died. Steve Jobs. Look at the amount of technology that we have because Steve Jobs had a lot of foresight and was able to come up with things. Who knew we needed an iPad? Who knew we needed an iPod? Who knew we needed these thin laptop computers? Steve Jobs. He's a technologist. He saw a need for something and he knew how to use the technology to develop these things. Now, the government has really been involved in the whole area of science and technology. If you look at the government agencies that deal with technology, it's almost like an alphabet soup. You've got the USDA, the DOE, the EPA, NASA, NIH, FCC, and Homeland Security, just as a few organizations that deal with technology and the future of technology. We talked about NASA a couple lessons ago. All the things that we got out of the space program, the technology that we use today. Well, the same thing's happening with the Department of Agriculture. Same thing's happening with the Department of Energy. Same thing's happening with the National Institute of Health, Federal Communications Commission. And Homeland Security is doing some just remarkable things to try to keep us safe. We've talked about that before. How does technology get developed? How do these futurists have some idea of what we need and what's going to happen in the future? Well, in 1944, 2 great events happened. One, I was born, and the second one was that General Arnold from the Army Air Corps realized that we really needed to find a way to anticipate what was going to happen in the Cold War. In 1944, we were just getting out of World War II, but he was anticipating the Cold War. And we needed to find out ways to anticipate what Russia and some of other countries are going to do. And he came up with this concept that's called Delphi. Delphi is the Delphi system is a fascinating way for a technologist to predict the future. What happens is all of the engineers and technologists and specialists in a certain area that they wanted to research were given 2 rounds of questionnaires. Now these were submitted anonymously. They were asked questions and then they were asked to defend their answers to the questions. And then these were anonymously gathered and someone put together a paper with all of this stuff put together. You know, you might say this is like brainstorming. I mean, this is sort of, what we do in businesses when we try to come up with an idea. But they do this anonymously. And they put all these together, and then it's shipped back out to these people, and they take that revision, and they look at it, and then come up with a conclusion. Absolutely fascinating. 1944. They've been doing it that long. Now, in 1946, the Air Force began using or developed a project called the RAND project. RAND stands for Research and Development. And this was a nonprofit think tank, and it still exists today. And the RAND Corporation used this Delphi approach. They were able to sit down and predict the future for technology. No one really knows what the future of technology is, but I would suggest that some of you who have found this topic of technology and how it permeates the whole of our existence, you might want to consider going into engineering or one of these areas where you could become a technologist. I imagine technologists make more than minimum wage. It's an outstanding job, and it's always a guess about what's going to happen. And wouldn't you like to be on the cutting edge of trying to make those guesses? I mean, who knew 5 years ago that people would be absolutely captivated with Facebook? Who knew 2 years ago that Pinterest would be a big deal? I mean, Google hasn't been around that long. Online learning is something that's really developed in the last 15 years. And again, you've got the iPhone, the iPad, Androids, portable computers. Computers that used to be enormous are now small. The cell phones that we carry can do advanced calculations that used to have to do them on a large computer. So, I suggest that as you do the work for this lesson, that you consider the difficulties associated with being a futurist and how technologists really work to try to find out what the next big deal is going to be. Because just because you have an idea doesn't mean it can be implemented. So, until next week, let me say, see ya.